Stone Cold Prose. Building better words.
Modern Star Trek is frequently raked over the coals for being woke. Critics of this criticism point out that Star Trek was always woke, meaning progressive in its thinking and outlook, and that its creator, Gene Roddenberry, was the wokest of them all, the godfather of wokeism, if you will, and that people who attack modern Star Trek simply don't understand the series or its guiding spirit. Is this true? Hi guys, welcome back to Stone Cold Prose, where we build better words, better thoughts, and better men. I'm Miles Watson, novelist and author of numerous award-winning series, including Cage Life, Sinner's Cross, and The Chronicles of Magnus. I worked in Hollywood for 12 years. I worked in law enforcement for another 10 and a half, and now I break it all down and build it back better. So let's get into this. Not long ago, I dropped a video called Woke Paramount versus Captain Kirk. In it, I spoke about the way that Paramount has been subjugating that iconic Starfleet captain to erasure and cancellation because he doesn't fit their image of what a modern hero should be or look like. That he was too white, too male, too confident, too aggressive, too sexually successful, and just too masculine for modern audiences. Now, when I made this video, I knew I was going to get a particular response from a particular type of person, and I was not disappointed. This response, which I've seen hundreds of times in various online forums, and also heard voiced at cons, and even in lectures at graduate schools, for that matter, is that Star Trek was always woke, and that criticisms of the way the franchise has been handled for the last 20 plus years are hypocritical and ignorant. Star Trek, these people maintain, was woke before woke was a thing, and its creator, the great bird of the galaxy, Gene Roddenberry, clearly meant it as a platform for ideas of a particular political persuasion. As a lifelong fan of Star Trek, meaning since I was in my high chair, as someone who has thousands of slides from the original negatives of the television show, I don't suppose you can see this, but it's Captain Kirk, and all manner of memorabilia, who has met most of the original cast and read pretty much every book and seen every interview on the subject. I can speak on this subject with considerable authority and with objectivity because, like Star Trek, I have no political axe to grind. So here we go. Gene Roddenberry was indeed actually a progressive, but for his time. To argue that the progressivism of the 1960s and the progressivism of today have anything in common is ignorant at best and a bad faith argument at worst. Hell, in the 1990s, we Gen Xers considered ourselves progressives for saying things like, we don't see color, meaning we actually cared for a person's character more than their skin tone. Well, guess what? Nowadays, that thinking is considered racist by progressives. So too is the statement, there's only one race, the human race, which is also considered racist by progressives, even though it's scientifically true. The fact is, neither left nor right-wing politics of today bear any resemblance whatsoever to those of Roddenberry's time. That argument, so-called, is a nakedly false equivalency. Number two, saying Star Trek was progressive is to ignore what progressivism actually is, which is a political ideology. You can love it, you can hate it, but it's a political ideology just like conservatism is. Star Trek was never political, which is why it attracted and continues to attract people from both sides of the political spectrum to this very day. On Star Trek, Dr. McCoy represented the hotly passionate, irrational, fundamentally humane side of the human personality. The liberal personality, if you like. Spock, on the other hand, represented the cold, logical, dispassionate, unfeeling, give me the bottom line without the bullshit, conservatism, if you like. And Kirk stood at the fulcrum, taking the best ideas from either side to help him make an informed decision. Democracy in its ideal state, independent of partisan politics. No, my friend. Star Trek did not have a political identity. It had a philosophy, and there's a huge difference. As I said in my very first video on this platform, which is called Woke Broke Storytelling, by the way, philosophy is the study of human existence and reality as a whole, while ideology is a set of beliefs that guide society and its systems. Philosophy is a guide to asking questions, while ideology is a set of beliefs that determine answers. Think about that very carefully. A set of beliefs that determine answers. Star Trek was scientific. Ideology is unscientific by its nature. Philosophy allows you to see the world as it is and deal with its realities and adjust to them. But ideology of any kind requires that you put on glasses that make you see the world a certain way, whether the world is that way or not. Star Trek never told you what to think. It did not demand, as ideology always does, that 2 + 2 = 5 if the party tells you it does. It demanded emotional and scientific truth, even when accepting that truth ran against your most ingrained beliefs and sincerely held prejudices. It presented moral problems, which the characters struggled to solve, often without knowing whether the solutions they arrived at were morally correct. The philosophy of Star Trek transcended politics. Unlike progressivism, which demands you bend the knee to its ideas, Star Trek was actually inclusive. Number 3, if Roddenberry was so frickin' woke, why did he create the James T. Kirk character in the first place? A straight, white, sexually dominant male who was inclined to use his fists, and sometimes his phaser, to solve problems. That's a rhetorical question, I grant you, but it's a rhetorical question for a reason, i.e. because it circles back to my first point, which is that imposing today's thinking and value systems, the thinking and value systems of 2024, on a TV show which debuted in 1966 is asinine. It's like pointing out that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican or Jefferson Davis is a Democrat. Both statements are true, but the context is so different as to make the facts almost meaningless. Star Trek is too complex for cheap labels like this. It's too fundamentally decent to lower itself into the filthy muck of party politics, which at their heart are about division, not unition. Star Trek was anti-war, but it understood that war is sometimes necessary. It championed peace, but it was manifestly not pacifist. It celebrated technology, but not at the expense of human intuition or decency. It put women in positions of authority, but it also put them in micro miniskirts or even less, and sex objectified the hell out of them at every opportunity. It was a lot of things, folks, but it wasn't woke. Ladies and gentlemen, the real truth here is that Roddenberry was a very progressive man for his day. And Star Trek, with its anti-materialist, anti-racist, anti-war message, its credo of infinite diversity and infinite combinations, was not in line with today's conservative ideology. But it wasn't really in line with today's progressive ideology either. What it was in line with was the philosophy of any decent thinking human being that someday humans would learn to celebrate the differences between them while retaining their own set of individual beliefs. Or as Kirk put it, we've each learned to be delighted with what we are. Folks, if you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell, and remember to check out my books on Amazon. The link is in the description. I drop scripted content every Friday at 3 p.m., shorts every day, and unscripted rants whenever rage moves me to do so. See you next time, and until then, stay cold, and live long, and prosper.